Another day, another round of Counter-Strike brings us closer to the conclusion of ESL Pro League Season 19. Today we had the round of 12 matches get played and wrapped up. And today was a scorcher. We saw legitimate threats to upset across 3 of our different series, and we got to cap off the day with a major finals rematch with Faze looking to redeem themselves for an awful performance, and NAVI seeking some validation, some justification for their right as major winners and a place in the top 10. It was truly scrappy, messy, beautiful Counter-Strike all the way down, so you miss out on the action. You are, of course, in the right place. We're going to be going over every single match, all the details, everything you need to know going into tomorrow and beyond. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, make sure you take a second, leave a like, comment, and subscribe below because it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, and many of you watch these videos are not subscribed, so you might as well do it. While you're down there, consider becoming a channel member for $5 a month. You can support me directly. And lastly, check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ1337. I stream Sunday through Friday, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be live tonight playing Counter-Strike, talking about Counter-Strike, living Counter-Strike, everything Counter-Strike. Come check me out, and let's start the recap. Our first match of the day would see Team 3D Max take on G2, and after yesterday, with the dominant G2 performance we witnessed, that meteoric rise of Nico back into the godhood we know of him, I was expecting this to be quick. I was expecting G2 to come out, take down the field quickly, and move on to the next round. And so imagine my shock when 3D Max comes out on the first map, Nuke, and punches G2 right in the goddamn mouth. G2's T side looked flat, uninspired, it was unmotivated, the takes were sloppy, the outside control was pitiful, and they allowed 3D Max to walk all over him. Namely, Maka, who throughout this series was a monster up and down. This guy played out of his mind. He was playing at a superstar level against G2. He was playing better than Nico and Muncie across the series, and because of that, G2 fell behind early on the first map, and at that point, classic G2, I was worried like, oh no, Caster's Curse. I talked all this shit about how Nico was back and they were about to raise the field, and here they are losing to 3D Max on the first map. Thankfully, G2 woke up on their second half. Admittedly, again, Nuke, CT-sided map, we all know that. However, they have the benefit of Nico being one of the best CT Nuke players of all time. Nico's outside solo control with no opping backing him up is infamous on this map, and he went to work. He allowed no quarter, no map control for 3D Max. They were routinely routing them, and this is the problem that can sometimes happen with tier 2 teams. The real, tangible difference between a tier 1 top 10 team and a tier 2 team is the depth of the playbook. The reality is you're not often working with the best coaching or the best in-game leadership, so if your 1A strategy doesn't work, what do you have in the back as your backup to retake map control on the T side? And what we saw from 3D Max is that at least on Nuke, they didn't have much. When their first rifle round didn't go their way, when they weren't able to take outside control and work how they wanted, they simply didn't seem to have an answer to pressure G2 into rounds that were more favorable for them. They had no recourse to try and go ramp, no good way to blow up lobby and take A. They were just looking incredibly lost and frustrated on their T side, which was a total flip from how confident and strong they looked to start the game on ZT. It's something we're going to talk about more later on with the other series, but this is why the fundamentals matter so much. Knowing as many smokes, as many takes as possible, and not just knowing them, but knowing how to execute them as a team. This is what separates the wheat from the chaff. This is what separates real talent from teams that rely on just being able to out-aim each other, because you're not going to out-aim a top 10 team like this. So where do you go in your strat book to work the problem and open up opportunities that are more favorable? And again, 3D Max just didn't have it. G2 run up the comeback. They win 10 of the 12 rounds on the second half to close this game 13-10 and take the 1-0 series lead. And to continue on a narrative about depth of strategy, when we move to the next map, we move to Anubis, this was a playground for 3D Max, because Anubis is a lot simpler than Nuke. You don't need the deepest strat book to make Anubis work, and we saw that if they just won the aim duels, they were able to make it work here. 3D Max once again opened up the first half of this game, dominating G2, this time on the T side. Anubis, a great T-sided map. If you can take the mid control, you can work the sites at your leisure, and that's what we saw play out. 3D Max were just winning their aim duels. They were walking into map control and beating G2 straight up, and as long as they continued to do that, they were able to stay in control of the game. That's the difference between the first and second map. They weren't able to win those aim duels on their T side on Nuke, so they lost. As soon as they were in position to win those aim duels with Maka and Lucky and Joko going off, they were able to dominate and win the map out. Admittedly, it was a bad map for Mongolz, an okay map from Nico. They weren't able to get the fragging going, and therefore they kept losing their ones and losing site control, and by the time they got to the second half, it was too little too late. 3D Max did not give up the lead this time, and they locked down a second map win, 13-7, and we go to the decider on Inferno, a strat-heavy map. And this was a classic G2 Inferno game where they did their homework on T-side, they worked the map control beautifully, their utility was better, the entering was better, Nico had a great game, Mongolz not far behind, Nexa getting the support kills that you needed. And when we got to the CT side, G2 are one of the craziest banana teams in the world on CT side. The way Huxley will just throw himself down banana, sacrificially if he has to take that deep banana control is so hard to deal with, and it forces you to either counter with extreme utility usage or be very confident in your A takes, something 3D Max was unable to do. 3D Max would only win one round on their T side of Inferno, and that just wasn't enough. They go down 13-6, despite an impressive performance by players like Maka across the series, it just wasn't enough. G2 simply had better stuff. But listen, great performance by 3D Max, taking a map off G2 and playing them close on Nuke. They gave them a run for their money and they had them sweating, which is frankly more than I expected out of this team. Moving on to our next series, we had Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. I want to open up by specifically just talking about FlyQuest, detached from the performances on all these maps. FlyQuest very easily could have won this series, and it would have been a massive upset, but only if you just kind of look at the names at face value. If you watch this game, this series, FlyQuest play Liquid on all three maps to the very end. They had Liquid on the ropes at various points, and they were outplaying them, outstratting them, outmaneuvering them at various points, and doing that as a tier 2 Australian team when this Liquid team was built to win championships. That was the goal. This is supposed to be a top 10, a top 5 team from Liquid, and they are there to take wins. FlyQuest really should just be happy to be here this far in the tournament. But what it comes down to is exactly what I was alluding to with 3D Max. FlyQuest play tier 1 capable Counter-Strike. They just don't necessarily have the personnel to produce tier 1 fragging, especially against tier 1 opponents. But the backbone, the strat book, the depth, the quality of the team play is all first rate. This team plays perfect, fundamental Counter-Strike. They don't overstretch, they don't tilt, they don't rely on insane overperformances from their stars. They play as a complete team. They play like a mouse. They play very, very good, fundamental Counter-Strike, and in a way that is so fun to watch. They should be so happy about how they performed in this series, even though they weren't able to pull it over the line. Dexter, Ince, Liaz were all absolutely critical at different points at different maps, and the whole team did what they needed to do. Dexter did have insane overperformances, especially on Mirage, looking absolutely insane, out of his mind. He led the server in frags, and the only reason his rating isn't higher is because he was oftentimes the first man in. He was entering a lot of these T-sides and just pulling up multi-kills out of nowhere. It was crazy. When we get to the first map on Mirage, Liquid were in the lead basically the entire time, but the rounds where FlyQuest took over and won were very impressive. Their strat calling on the T side of Mirage was awesome. They pulled out some great fakes to open up the B side, and they worked good mid-control to try and take A, but what it came down to is that Liquid's retakes and the post plants were just simply superior. Their ability to get back the map control and win out and close rounds was better for their CT side. And when we swapped, Liquid had great map control, especially taking the A side. However, FlyQuest were really good at holding their nerve, and when they ran off 4 straight rounds, it looked like they were firmly in control, especially winning 3 out of 4 post-plant retakes in that run. The big standout here for Liquid, I think, is Yakindar finally coming online. Yakindar's been the piece that's lagged behind most for me in this roster. He's been the most suspect across all the series that I've watched, very rarely coming online and showing the star potential that we expect out of him. But not only does he lead Liquid for this series, he's right behind Twist on map 1 with the second most frags, and he's going to maintain that form throughout this series, which is a good sign. If Yakindar and Skulls can play to their level, then Liquid is going to be entering that conversation of being able to win this championship. We move on to Anubis, and all credit goes to FlyQuest here. This is what I talk about in terms of them having the poise to be a much better team than they are on paper. Because not only did they start off by running up a 5-1 lead on the T side of Anubis, they then take a huge hit, losing the next 10 of 11 rounds to Liquid as they transition sides. That is a huge blow to suffer from a Liquid team that can be so overwhelming to beat, but to calmly take that blow, and then on the CT side of Anubis, win the next 6 of 7 to force overtime and then dominate the overtime, winning in the first overtime period, not giving Liquid any chance to run back their momentum. That is quality stuff. That is not Tier 2 Counter-Strike being played. This for me is the highlight map of the day and one you should go back and watch. An incredible performance by both teams. And then we move to Ancient, a map I think FlyQuest are going to want to forget soon, because I'm just going to say this here. Liquid handed FlyQuest the ability to win this series, and it came down to just 2 crucial mistakes at the last minute. Because you open up, Liquid dominate the CT half of Ancient, they go up 9-3, and you think, okay, it's over. Liquid, they're the better team. FlyQuest, they're conceding the third map, they've put up a great performance, but they ran out of steam. And then we swap sides, and Liquid go absolutely missing after getting to 11 rounds. They win 2 of their T-side rounds of the first 3, and then FlyQuest lock in and take advantage of several sloppy Liquid mistakes. They run off 6 rounds in a row where Liquid was out of timeouts and refused to do the classic French eco, where they slowed down, talked it out for an entire round, saved, and got back to proper full buys. They did like 3 awful half buys in a row where Liquid just decided to rush a site or rush mid and just get mowed over by FlyQuest, holding down, playing excellent trades and counter flash. And once FlyQuest got this to 11-10, I thought this was GG. I thought Liquid were going to have the biggest collapse I've seen in a long time and choke this matchup. And what it was that caused FlyQuest to lose composure here, I don't know. Were the lights a little too bright? Was it young nerves? Regardless, on a crucial round, Vexite decides to push through caves by himself one more time to try and get a solo pick towards Jaguar. Yekindar gets an insane 180 off of a bad spray from Vexite. And after that point, FlyQuest seemed to just fall apart communication-wise and start pushing Liquid in discreet 1v1s. No opportunity for trades, no flash support, no utility support from their teammates, giving Liquid all of the advantageous gunfights to catch their breath, catch their momentum, and bring it back to match point 12-10. And at that point, FlyQuest looked defeated because they made the same mistakes on the very next round, not doing what they had done previously in the half. They stopped playing together. They let Liquid kick the door closed on them and send them home 13-10, when in reality, FlyQuest were in a position where they should have won this game. All love to FlyQuest. They impressed me beyond belief in this tournament, and I'm really looking forward to see what they do next. Liquid, you move on by the skin of your teeth, so you better make it count in the next series. Now, speaking of missed opportunities, our next series was the Mongolz versus Virtus.pro, and straight up, once again, Mongolz had every opportunity to beat Virtus.pro straight up, and unfortunately they couldn't do it at the last moments. We open up on Overpass, and they play Overpass really well. They go 9-3 on the CT, completely shutting down Virtus.pro, and this is like a classic Virtus.pro throw moment. James just in the back getting nothing done, Electronic struggling to get online. They were relying on Fame and Flit to get anything going on the T side, and I thought for sure Mongolz were going to take this swiftly, especially when we moved to the second half, but credit to VP, they lock in their CT side Overpass, they win the pistol +3. James and Electronic come online to get their frags going. James ended up leading VP here with 19 kills total, but it wasn't enough. Despite them running up a fair amount back in the comeback, Mongolz took just enough of what they needed. They only needed 4 rounds to win the map. They managed to get them across the half and avoid an overtime. I think this goes to the overtime that Virtus.pro are likely to win this first map. Again, for the Mongolz, gotta shout out Senzu here. He leads the server with 24 frags. He was by far the most dominant player here on Overpass and really helped power Mongolz over the line to take a 1-0 series lead. And at this point, I think Virtus.pro are on the way out. I don't know how they're going to be able to come back against this because they've been playing too far behind in their previous series for my comfort. And we open up Mirage, and Virtus.pro stomp a 13-6 victory to quickly take back control here. Leading the way was Fame with a 24 kill performance, a 1.99 rating. He was all over the place on both sides, just taking map control at will. Norbert had a great map out of nowhere. Usually he's kind of VP's lowest performing player, but 16 kills, maintains a nice positive rating. He's great supporting everybody else on the map. Meanwhile, Electronic not playing that great. James was just kind of okay, but Fame was enough to power them up. And one thing I have to point out, across this series, Mazzino was missing for the Mongolz. Typically their best player, he bottom fragged every single map in this series, and that was just too much for the Mongolz to overcome. If he plays even like 50% to his usual level, I think the Mongolz win this series. And then we move to the Cider on Ancient. and the Mongols run up an 11-2 scoreline across the first half, win the pistol round to start the second half, and then the unthinkable happens. Virtus.pro run off 11 straight CT rounds, including 6 bomb defusals, to win the map 13-11. And fair play, for as much criticism as I give them, Jame and Electronic, they led their team when they needed it most. They locked down Ancient and kicked the door closed on Mongol's chances in this tournament. Virtus.pro, they haven't looked the best, but god damn it, when the chips are down, Virtus.pro are finding a way to win, and there's something to be said about that. For the Mongols, you're just going to look back on this straight up and said you should have won this map. You should be advancing, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Mizzino, 9-10, typically your best players, not good enough on the final map. And we end the day where everybody was looking to end the day. The major finals rematch, Faze versus NAVI. And man, what a series it was. Straight up, I think this was a fantastic series, and watching Faze get their redemption here was satisfying. As much as I liked this NAVI team, I did not like how badly Faze played in the major finals, so I'm glad to see them take one back and put NAVI kind of in their place a little bit. And Faze opened up this series with a statement game, 13-5 on Nuke. NAVI did not stand a chance. They had no ability to get anything going on the T side, and Faze themselves on the opening half on T side worked map control beautifully. They threw different sets outside every single round. A takes, ramp takes, outside takes to lower. They were doing everything you needed to keep NAVI confused, on the back foot, and unable to respond with any kind of aggression. It was only Bit who managed to get into double-digit frags with 12, but JL, Alexi B, Wonderful, Emma, all below 10 kills for the map. Nobody on NAVI managing to get close to a 1.0 rating, and that just means they got absolutely routed. On the other side, Rops and Kerrigan leading the way for Faze, a classic Rops map on Nuke where he was just all over the place, lurking around, getting his picks. Kerrigan just taking bold map control, someone who's not afraid to entry for his team when he needs it. And then Rain being the lockdown defender that he is. Frozen and Brokey, they got their numbers, but frankly they weren't needed. The game was over before they needed to be activated. We moved to Mirage, and it feels like we actually got to see a complete game here, as NAVI and Faze go all the way to overtime in this one, and it was a back and forth affair. NAVI played an okay T side to open it up, but Faze looked definitely in control. The way they shut NAVI out of the bomb sides was impeccable, perfect counter-strike, and they kept keeping NAVI at arm's reach. They wouldn't allow them too much map control so they could execute at will. They were forcing NAVI to make late sloppy executes on the sites to try and get their rounds off. And leading the charge and making an extremely compelling case as a top 10 player in the world right now was Brokey with 21 opening half kills, looking just dominant on the op, dominant with the rifle. He was doing everything on this map for them. Rops, once again, having a great series right behind him. Rain not that far back. It was Frozen who was kind of struggling, but even then, they really didn't need him until much later in the game. This really was the tale of CT sides. Neither team could really get anything going in terms of T-side executes here. We swapped sides and NAVI play incredible lockdown defense themselves. They managed to control the half, winning 8-4 and pushing it to an overtime, where once again the story was CT side aggression. In the first half of overtime, NAVI take 2 of 3, denying Faze a bomb plant and outfragging them elsewhere. And then we swap sides and Faze lock it the fuck in. They take all 3 of the second overtime rounds on CT with 2 clutch bomb defusals to win the map 16-14 and send NAVI packing. Major redeemed. Now listen, is this an extreme indictment on NAVI? I think not. This was a group of death scenario, and Faze are arguably the best team in the world right now. NAVI, even though they won the major, are like a, at best, top 8 team in the world. They would struggle against Faze every single time, and it took an extreme overperformance by people like JL for them to get over the line in the major. So we come in here, JL is not performing well, Emma's not performing well, Bit's performing great, and then their top fragger is Alexi B, your in-game leader. That's not going to be enough against a team as consistent as Faze, and that's what we saw play out. And the stage is set. The quarterfinals begin tomorrow. Let me know your picks in the comments down below. Did you guys catch the action today? What'd you think about the games played? For me, FlyQuest was the surprise of the day. I really enjoyed watching them play, and I'm so excited to see them in the future. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be responding down there. Shout out to my channel members, Furley, Justin, and Jesse for keeping the lights on. I appreciate you guys immensely. Other than that, my name is LionHeartZ. I'll see you guys next time. Yeah, peace.